Hello again to the new episode, and I know we always tell this, but we have an amazing guest for you, Mateusz Katzig, who is a senior concept designer at Ubisoft Düsseldorf. So thank you for being here with us, and yeah.
Hello, thank you.
So
Yeah, hi, I'm Mateusz Katzig. Like Kamila mentioned, I work at Ubisoft for last 8 years actually, as of this month. Yeah, I'm really happy to be there, and thank you for the invitation.
thank you, man.
Our pleasure. um, well, let's start with the beginnings. Like always, we usually go to the moments. How did you discover concept art in the first place? Because it's such a different. Well, it is a different industry, but it's also not. So, like, what what brought you in to the industry? What like how did you actually get to know about concept art in the first place?
Yeah, that's a good question. I can't really recall the exact moment it happened. I think it was around middle school. I was always playing games. My dad is a big gamer, so there were always PCs and games around. I was a tiny, and my dad was playing Diablo 2, Diablo 1. Like I have them very vague memories of LAN parties. Um, I think games were always with me. But I never really thought about working on games. As kids, it was always like, oh yeah, I want to, test games. It's playing games all day, and you just get paid for it, right? That couldn't be more wrong, knowing how QA actually works on games. It's so far away from that. But I think it was around middle school. I got interest in kind of painting and drawing, and I got a digital tablet for my 16th birthday, I think. Um, and I think that kind of started there. Wasn't really geared towards games necessarily. It was more like illustration and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And I guess
Sorry,
yeah,
sorry to interrupt you in the
yeah,
middle.
go for it.
Like, I'm hearing someone bought you a tablet from parents, probably, right? Like, did they
Yeah,
know that you're going to go for like sort of an artsy thing, or they're like, oh, you know, that's an
uh,
interesting device. Let's buy it from Mateusz.
yeah, I don't know. I think they kind of wanted to support that because I was
Right.
playing around with Photoshop a bit. And I would draw and paint a bit as a kid, but I kind of stopped at some point. So I think it was just kind of interest in graphics as such. And then kind of my dad insisted on getting me a tablet, because like, yeah, you will have fun. It will be much easier for you. So I did get it. And that was my first digital paintings, and I think that's where kind of deviant art came in. I think everyone started with that.
Yes.
And yeah, I think that's probably where I saw the first concept art stuff, and I started drawing, painting a bit more. That was really high school. I was really not on path to become an artist. I was in advanced math, physics, IT class, so I was as far as you could be from going for art stuff. So it was just a hobby. And it kind of started there. I think I came across the concept art. I think it was still like the very end of CG Hub. So I kind of caught the tail end of it, the top squares in CG Hub, the biggest owner. So I
Yes.
saw some art there. Um, I got for my 18th birthday, I think, subscription to Imagine FX. And that was kind of more towards games and stuff. And that was kind of the point where I realized I want to try to do art as a profession. I was, on track to be a software developer, but I kind of, it was kind of the moment where I realized I probably won't enjoy it that much. I was pretty good at it, but I didn't think it was my passion. It didn't give me so much satisfaction. What I like about art is that you get immediate feedback. You're drawing something and you immediately have the result in front of you. Programming is a lot of, writing a lot of code and figuring out how to structure things, and then you just get a few numbers as output, and that's the only feedback you're getting after hours of work. So it didn't really sit right with me. Sorry, didn't sit really right with me. Um, so I decided I would try to do the art thing, because I'd rather fail at it and just fall back to being a software developer, then always wonder what would happen if I decided to do art. I didn't want to have the regret of not trying. So I went for it. I kind of, at the time, the only path was to go to university to kind of study it. I didn't want to go to Fine Arts Academy because I knew it would be really like gallery oriented.
Right. And sorry to interrupt you again. That was in Poland?
Yeah, that was in Poland. Yeah. I think maybe a context because I am Polish. I lived most of my life in Poland. I finished high school there. And after that, I decided I would try to get to uni in UK because that was the only place I kind of found that has those game art, digital art, concept art programs. And I failed for the first time. I didn't get it. I didn't really have a portfolio. I didn't really have anything of value or good enough at the time. So I took a gap year. And I tried again. I got in, and that's kind of how my journey started. Going to study game art and game art design in the UK.
And where did you get in?
Yeah, I wanted to know.
Was it De Montfort? I think.
Yeah, it was Montfort. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was De Montfort. Yeah.
Yeah, at that time, it's sort of like the usual pathway because I think it was the only university that had sort of a game design thing.
Yeah, there was one more. There was it was
Staffordshire.
It was east of England. No, that wasn't Staffordshire yet. I don't think it was known back then. It was east of England. I don't remember. Not Teesside University. They had masters in concept art later, but it wasn't them.
No.
I don't remember. But yeah, there was one more uni I applied to. I got both, and I went to the Montfort because this was the university for that stuff at the time. So I studied there for 3 years, and that kind of kicked off the whole, I'm actually going to be a concept artist thing. So that was the beginning of the journey.
Oh, that's very, very interesting then. So it's like you went to Poland and then you said, well, I'm gonna do concept art or at least focus on that sort of pathway. How did you find UK? Going and studying and I guess at that specific time, I mean, it's kind of hard to talk about education because I still think there's a lot of, I mean, even though they're sort of popping off the concept art, sort of courses are popping up here and there.
Yeah.
Back then, it was years ago, right? Like, I don't know exactly how long it was.
Yeah, when was it?
2014 when I started.
Right, so quite, yeah, it was quite
yeah,
some time
11 years
ago.
ago. Yeah, it was quite different. I mean, it was still when Facebook community was alive and live streaming, and everyone was live streaming. So I do know quite a lot of people from that time that now are all over the world working in different studios and freelancers and this kind of stuff. I did like UK. I think it definitely helped me. I'm pretty much bilingual, so I didn't really struggle with the language, which made it really easier. I did enjoy it. It was really rainy and cold, but I didn't really like hot days, so that was preferable for me. I think even like artist side, it was really important experience for me because I kind of jumped on the deep end. And I just had to figure out life on my own. Like, yes, I did have support of my parents, but I was there on my own. I didn't have any friends. I didn't have any family there when I went there. So everything was good, kind of cool of life. You had to cook. You had to do your own groceries. You had to remember that toilet paper just doesn't appear in the bathroom on its own.
Yeah.
Loads of things that you don't really think of as a teenager. So I think that was really good. That was really good in terms of life experience and figuring out how to be independent, how to spend money, how to not spend money. So yeah, I think that was like above everything else, art related. I think that was like one of the best things that could have happened to me because it gave me the foundation to be an independent adult that I am now.
Did you feel prepared to find a job right after school? Like, I'm kind of curious because the different schools have different approach, right, to the portfolio stuff. And did you have like a specific project that you had to work on, or did you have to work on your portfolio stuff in your free time?
I was kind of a bit of both. So going back to your question, how to find study in UK and then the art course, not to slack off anyone there, but I think it mostly bought me time to do my own thing in my free time. We did have some classes, we did have some stuff. I did learn 3D on it in there, so that was like an important step. But I don't think at that time just studying there alone would have made anyone a concept artist. It was kind of a known thing that you don't become a concept artist after this kind of course. Also because a lot of the people were just starting out. I did have an upper hand that I was doing art for some time at that point already. So I think you had to be really determined to actually become a concept artist after that. It wasn't as straightforward. I think even university was pushing mostly for people to go into 3D, simply because it was easier to get a job after this, and that made university look better. So they were like, yeah, do 3D, be a 3D artist, environment, or prop or character, because it's just the easiest route to get into the industry. I did kind of insist. I was really stubborn. And I was like, no, I want to do concept art. I will do concept art. So we had this, it was called a final major project. I think it's still called like that because I sometimes see some the Montfort University students posting stuff like that. So it was this, the whole semester long project, I think it was like 4 months or something like this, 5 maybe, that you had to get approved by the course leader, what you want to do and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, I want to make a world building project, kind of loosely based on a Polish fantasy book by Ziemiański. It's Haya. I don't know if you know it. It's a Polish fantasy, and I kind of took that inspiration and kind of built movie style cinematic keyframe world building stuff around it, and I put a lot of effort into it. I kind of knew what I wanted to do with that. I had some support from friends already in the industry. Darek Zabrowski was giving some feedback, so I had a bit of help there. And I felt like I have a good enough portfolio to get in, as a junior role. I initially wanted to go into film. Games wasn't my first choice. I'm kind of more interested in film. But I didn't get in. I did have some interview with Framestore, but I think I just failed at some point, like after stage 2 or something like this, for an internship. And the job at Ubisoft kind of became accidentally. My university, they offered us to go to Quo Vadis. It's like a game conference in Berlin. So I was like, you know what, I may as well. And we went, and there was a bunch of people from the Ubisoft Düsseldorf. Back then it was still Blue Byte. It wasn't called Ubisoft Düsseldorf yet. It was Ubisoft Studio, but it didn't have the name change yet. And they were recruiting for their Berlin studio. And I was like, yeah, hi, I'm a student, I'm about to graduate, and I was wondering, what kind of people you're looking for. And they were like, yeah, we're looking more for the senior people, because it's a kind of going to like be AAA studio, and we kind of look for more senior staff. I was like, yeah, okay, that's a shame, but you know what? I'm just gonna show you what kind of stuff I'm working on, what I'm doing. And I showed them my portfolio, and I got pretty much hired on the spot for the Düsseldorf office.
Wow, nice. What a success story.
That's a
Yeah,
very crazy
it was
story.
really accidental. Yeah, it's a crazy story. Because I showed my portfolio, they're like, oh yeah, that's really nice. That's really good. They're like, you know what? There's a producer for the project that might be interested. Right here, he should be somewhere here, but he's not at the moment. So we agreed I will leave them my phone number, and they will call me when he's around. So I, come by the booth and we talk. And yeah, I talked, and they're like, yeah, when can you start? So of course I went through like official interview process afterwards, and stuff like that. But I got really lucky, and I got hired before I graduated. So the day after I finished my course, I was already on the plane to Germany to start my work at Ubisoft.
Amazing. Wow.
And moving again. This
To
time
another
from UK
country,
to
yes.
Germany.
Yes, to a completely different country, which was a bit more challenging, I think. Like, we learned German in Polish schools, but let's face it, my German wasn't great. It's
That's the
just kind
same
of
for
ironic
me.
given, yeah, kind of ironic given my family is like, from Germany, to a degree, like half of it. But I didn't really speak German. But the studio works in English, so there wasn't really any sort of barrier. When I joined, there was this funny rule that everyone has to speak English, and if someone starts speaking German, they have to bring cake. Like to not exclude anyone that doesn't speak German. It was like kind of the thing, like, yeah, if you start talking to someone German, you can bring a cake. Yeah, that was the beginning of the journey, and that was when I joined the Avatar project.
Right.
I didn't know what I'm joining. I signed the contract. I had no idea what I'm signing up for. They were like, "Yeah, it's a big IP. You will love it. It will be fun." But I didn't know until I walked into like actual office spaces, like plastered with like Avatar stuff. So I didn't know until that what I'm actually going to be working on.
Right. And that was, you said you were, oh, Kamila said, and you said yourself, it was 8 years, right? So you're in this, well,
Yeah,
in studio for 8 years now.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
always interested in this because I'm like, I tend to hop quite a lot between, studios or whatever.
yeah.
But there's people like yourself too, that prefer staying in the studio for a longer time or whatever. How do you find, my question is, how do you find working, like, how do you find the creative sort of flow and passion working on, like, let's say one IP for so long? Like, I'm so interested in that. If you know
You
what I
will get
mean.
worn. Yeah, I know. You will get worn out. Like there's no way not to. Depending on how long the project is, it's just I think it's just like psychological thing at some point. It just,
Right.
if you eat your favorite food every day, you will hate it at some point.
Mm.
And I'm not ashamed to say that I did get tired at some point. It was an amazing journey. I learned so much on this project, but towards the very end, especially when the project is wrapping up and let's say it's just not the most fascinating tasks left. It's some icons or some UI stuff, maybe. Like whether all the big things were handled or the exciting tasks were done, and you just left with what just needs to be done. I think everyone's just started at that point, especially if project takes years to finish. And I don't think I think it's healthy to have multiple projects and kind of swap around because fatigue appears. I think there are people that probably can do it, and they work multiple years on like live service games like Guild Wars, and those games that are there for like 10 years plus. World of Warcraft. There are some heavy hitters that are on those projects for like 10, 15 years probably, and they still love every day. But I don't think it's for everyone. I think it's kind of healthy to change of pace. Because it just it might get exhausting depending on the tasks that are there. But yeah, I think at some point you you want to do something a bit different, even if it's
Yeah.
within the same project. You just want to do something
Mhm.
else.
Right. You've mentioned something very important in my opinion, which is the sort of, it's not even, it starts to become more psychological
Yeah,
than like anything else. How do you, like, sometimes there are people that are literally like, oh, I'm just gonna break through the wall with my head until it crumbles down, even if it takes few years. How do you find yourself dealing with all that? Um, like those burdens of, like, or like, not, because it must be like,
Mm.
I really appreciate when somebody
yeah,
says, like, you struggle too. Like, there's
yeah.
no bullshitting around. Um, and I mean, like, whatever person you might be, like, I would struggle to, and I guess everybody would too.
Yeah.
Um, so how do you go through that? Like, how do you stay within? Because we are in such a creative industry too, right?
Yeah,
And sometimes it
yeah.
must be extremely frustrating uh, to do.
It kind of comes down also to how your team works.
Right.
I'm really
Yes.
lucky. I worked with an amazing team. I worked with the team over at Massive and worked with the team we had locally and with my art director as well. And if your relationship is good with your manager, with your art director, the thing you can do is go and say, "Hey, I'm kind of struggling to keep doing this kind of tasks. Can we switch it up?" And then if there is something else in the project that is different from what you've been doing for, let's say, like the last 2 years or something, and there's opportunity to change, you just work with something else. It comes down to having support structure within the studio that you're working with. And that was kind of important in our team as well. Like there was always made efforts to make sure that whatever you're working on at this time is something that you want to work on. And if you do need to switch and work on something else, that there is opportunity provided for you, so you just don't burn out. And I think that that's really important, that there is this like healthy mindset in the team and to your managers, and I think was really helpful in that case. For instance, for Avatar, like the big thing are the two things, like RDA and Navi. So some people would switch between working on hard surface stuff to working on the really organic Navi stuff, and that sometimes feels like completely different project within itself because there are different roles, there are different people you're working with, there are different sets of challenges. And this is something that helps. Just to change it up, do something else, work with different team maybe. Maybe you want some quick dopamine hit, so you just ask, can I, get some small prop to be done, because it's still something that will help the team and it needs to be built. But you handle something easy for 2-3 days and you get this satisfaction of having completed it. And then you're ready to take on another task. For me, what works well is I tend to have more than one task assigned to me at a time, because I tend to work in parallel on a few things. So if I'm getting to the point where I hit the wall on one of the tasks, because sometimes there's just no point smashing your head against the wall. You're stuck, and you either need someone else to have a look at it and discuss this with. So your art director, your peer, your colleague, maybe someone from the 3D team or level art team or whatever, anyone. But sometimes you just have to digest it. Is it kind of like working but not working moment when you're just working in your head? And I find that personally, for me, it helps to have a different task that I focus on. And usually by the time I get to a certain stage in other task, I do come up with a solution for the task I stopped working on. And my art director knows that, and he always tries to make sure that I have like one or two, not one, 2 or 3 tasks, assigned to me at a time, so I can switch it up. I can do something else, different pace, different stage of the task, and that helps me. I think it's different for everyone. Some people don't like to be distracted because they feel the pressure of like, oh my God, I have like 2-3 things on me and they have to be done. But for me, it works.
Yeah, I think this is like amazing advice, like general, like to speak up for yourself if you are stuck or have some troubles with your task. Yeah, just sometimes telling your art director about it and maybe getting another task and coming back to it later. Like it's so easy, right? You just have to speak about it. And so I'm very curious because you are actually our first guest that that works in a studio. Like, what are the pros and cons working in a studio that comes up in your mind, like straight away? Like, what is the biggest pro and what is the biggest con?
Free food.
I think that.
No, I
What?
think
Sorry.
The free food.
The free food. The breakfast.
That's not. We're not working in Google. It's not slides
Okay.
and free food. No, I think it depends what you're after. Like first of all, working in a studio is stability in many aspects. Like it's stability in employment, so you don't have to worry about what do I do when my contract finishes in 2-3 months. So there's no stress like that. But there's no stability of you work with the same people in a way over and over again. So you have time to build relationships. I'm working with the same art director since I started, and I really cherish that relationship. I think it's really professional. I think we got to know each other. I know how to work with this art director. I know what he will want. I know what he doesn't like. And that helps to mitigate some of the pitfalls of not doing something that they kind of expect. I don't know how to explain it. Everyone has personal preferences, right?
Mm.
And everyone has different approaches to solving issues. And when you work with someone for a prolonged amount of time, you find out what their likes and don't likes are. And also, how they like to be presented with the solutions, or what kind of things works for them. So, some art directors really want a whole mood board of references, because otherwise they will not be happy with the solution, because they need to see that you researched it. Some art directors are not like that. Some already know that you've researched it thoroughly, and if you tell them, it's really important for hard surface stuff, especially on the project Avatar, where making sure it's believable and logical was super important also for the team at Lightstorm. They wanted to be sure that we have researched it, what we designed, and that it's at least plausible. As an engineering solution, it would make sense. So I would explain this is how it works. I researched, I watched a ton of reference videos for this mining truck, and I did my research in how the chassis is engineered and all this kind of stuff. And I just get a nod. Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, you did your work. I hear you did that, and I see it. It looks good, so we're good. And you kind of you learn how to work with other person. So I think that's a big important kind of pro of working in the studio, because you actually build lasting relationships. I'm on a different project now for some time, but I still am really good friends with the team at Massive that I worked with. They're just good friends, and we check on each other. How we doing, how we feeling. I think when you're doing freelance, I don't think it's like that. It's more so, at least from my limited experience and how I imagine you're more of a hire gun, so you don't really get that personal relationship so much,
Mhm.
unless you work with someone really frequently. But it's also, like I said, the employment stability. I think those are the two main things. The con is, of course, if you have a long project, you're on a long project. For on freelance, especially in film, you go for like 12 months contract, and you switch it up pretty fast. Or you have multiple contracts within a year. They're completely different projects. So I think from my perspective, someone that works in-house, this is the exciting part of freelance, right? You get to work on many different things, and they're completely different from each other, and that keeps it fresh. So I think that's kind of might be a con of working in the studio, when you kind of limited to the IPs that your studio is working on, that they own. So of course, if you work at Ubisoft, you will never work on a non-Ubisoft IP unless it's in partnership, like Avatar was. But kind of going in-house, you decide to accept that you will work only on the IPs that the studio owns, potentially something new, but nothing else. And I can imagine not everyone might be happy with that, because your dream is working on Star Wars, but you won't get to work on Star Wars when you're in Blizzard or something like this. So I think that's the trade-off of working in the studio.
Mhm.
Also, you are, living where you live, so you have to be happy with the place you live in, where the studio is. It kind of changed during COVID, the remote work and hybrid. I'm still lucky to have hybrid office, so I can work from home, and I can work remotely from European Union. But that gave extra flexibility to, visit more places and do more stuff. But I feel like when you're a freelancer, you have more freedom. No one can tell you where you should move, because you don't have office to go to. So as long as you can pack your workstation, you're good to go. So
Mm.
I think that would be like the first thing that comes to my mind.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
And it
amazing.
also seems like maybe I'm gonna go back a bit to the like when
Yeah.
you've graduated and you found the job. And I mean, you were prepared. I mean, they didn't hire you because because if you just were there, you had to have a good stuff to show.
Yeah.
How did you find accommodating to the studios sort of straight away from the university? Like, was it hard for you at the first place? Like, you already said to us that you have a very great team, which is, I think, half of the success. Having a great team is amazing.
I
But
no, finish your question, sorry.
I mean, how did you find that? Is this all right?
Yeah, no. It has its own challenges, especially with German bureaucracy. Like coming here and sorting all of this stuff, like, oh my God, they will say, this Digitalisierung, yeah, that's a myth. Like Neuland, it doesn't exist. Like internet, you can't do anything. You have to just go there and queue or hope that you will, hunt down an appointment with the amp to sort anything out. And you need like lots of papers, and it was way easier as a European Union citizen. So I can only imagine what people that are coming from outside the European Union are going through with all the papers, documents, all this kind of stuff. You need this thing you need one thing to be able to open a bank account, but there is another thing you can't do without a bank account. So it just was challenging. But I had support from the studio. They made sure I have a place to stay. So they organized accommodation for me, so I didn't have to do it myself, which is a horrible thing to go through in Germany. Finding a flat or anything like that, it's really challenging, especially if you're a foreigner. That's another thing that makes it more difficult. But I had help sorting out all the official stuff and settling in and making sure I feel comfortable. I also got language classes really early on. So yeah, it was different life because at university, I was just waking up and going to the university campus where we had our studios, and I would sit there until evening. That was the life. Sure, I would go grab dinner. I lived very close to the campus, so it wasn't a problem. But it was a bit different. It was a bit more structured in a way. At university, I could stay up until like 4 or 5 a.m. and then, wake up at 1 p.m. and then go to the studio um, at uni and then work like that. But, you have to keep working hours when you're working in the office. So that kind of gives different kind of structure that you have to obey in a way, and you have to get used to that. Um, Staying up until 3 a.m. has its own consequences when you have to wake up at 8 the next day. So yeah, it was a bit of adjustment period, and I was exhausted for the first 2 or 3 months because it was different, it was intense. Um, a lot of stuff to learn, at university, or I think pretty any arts education at this point, any courses, schools, they focus on art. You do art, it might be Blender, it might be Photoshop, this kind of stuff. But then you onboard in a studio, and there's Confluence, there is Jira, there is Perforce, there is a lot of tools that you at least need to know how to operate. And I'm not saying it's complicated; it's just something else. You just have to be mindful of it, that I think art education really often gives you the skill set that is 100% portfolio related, but you won't necessarily be ready for the myriad of other tools and things that you have to use. There's also the game engine on that Ubisoft. We use proprietary engines, Snowdrop. I mean, we use many in Ubisoft as such, but we're using Snowdrop. You can't know Snowdrop before you start working at Ubisoft. It's not like Unreal Engine. So then comes a day when you should test something in the engine, or you look at something in the engine and you need to figure out how it works. So there's a lot of extra, so to say, skills that you need to know and have, and just remember about those things that you probably never came across before.
But do you think it's possible to actually learn this stuff before working in a studio? Like, I would be happy if a lot of students would actually focus on their portfolios, you know? But I think, like, for example, like with the Snowdrop, right? Like, is there like a way to prepare for it? I don't think so, right? Like,
For that, I don't think so. No, you would just get surprised by what are the tools that are used in house. But like I hate Jira. I'm not gonna say I love Jira.
yeah,
I like Jira for the list. We also use Shotgun at some point. It's a film tool for organizing stuff. But I think maybe at least flagging the issue of having to track your task and times would be good. You know, when you work on some project portfolio. Because you're on your own timeline when you're working on your portfolio, and you'll be on someone else's timeline when you're in the office, in-house. You just have to. There are deadlines. There are different delivery stages. There might be some dependencies. Most of the time, concept art is the first team that has to start on something. But it does happen that it's in reverse. There is already level design in place, and you just have to design something for what's in there because, you know, in games, gameplay is king. So we try to make something amazing visually, but there are compromises we have to accept because it just has to work for gameplay. It's different working on your portfolio when I think it's often not tied to any actual working technical prototype. So you just do the fun stuff. I'm not saying it's not fun doing it the other way, but you just, you know, you focus on the most artistic, fun stuff, you know, designs and stuff. But then when you're working, I think it's for the same for the freelancers. When you work on something specific, there come extra technical limitations. They might be budget, technical, animation, like a lot of things, or you just have to make something in that composition because this is the shot you have in the game and you just can't help it. So you can massage it and you can, you know, influence it to a degree, but some core things will have to stay the way they are.
Yeah.
So I think it's a bit different, yeah.
So you think maybe like without having to learn Jira or anything, like maybe at least tracking your time that you need for the concept. I think like a lot of students are worried that they're too slow or it's taking too long for them to complete a task. But I think it's a question that you get asked a lot in an interviews, right? Like how long do you need for a specific task? And, you know, just knowing like your benchmark or like okay, I usually need like, I don't know, like 3-5 days for this kind of concept, like might be a good idea, right?
Yeah, I think it would be helpful. I think I wouldn't stress so much about being fast because that comes with experience. I don't think when you're joining, especially on entry level position like a junior, no one expects you to be super fast. Like it would be unrealistic. You just have to, in a reasonable amount of time, deliver a satisfactory result. So I think it might be good to help. It might be helpful to time box your work to make sure you don't spend, I don't know, 2 months on a concept, because it might be that there's a task like that. It can happen, but it's really rare. Like usually it comes in stages, and there are two kinds of people that you will have to deal with. You deal with the people that know how to read sketches, and there are people that have absolutely no clue what they're looking at. If you're lucky, your art director can read the sketches. I have met the art directors that can't read the sketches, and that becomes problematic really fast. Because then kind of the point in time where you can present your work in a rough state to someone that can be like, okay, this direction is good, we can carry on, is moving really forward because you need to render, you need to make it, you know, at least pretty-ish. And that becomes a problem really fast because you put a lot of time upfront before you find out whether it's a good direction or not. So I think it's good to keep that in mind that you will never get to finish the concept to your satisfactory level before you have to show it. Like it just doesn't happen. You need to get this like rough image in front of art director or maybe the lead level artist or lead level designer, so they can kind of sanity check it if it works for them. for their requirements. So I think time boxing, but also being mindful that you will never have the chance really to push the concept as far as you would in your personal work or portfolio work. Production probably won't call for it. Production concepts are way rougher. They need to telegraph the idea, and they need to be helpful for the team that works on it. And sometimes making it really pretty and illustrative helps, because it's a stage when you're getting the team excited. It's kind of like early days in the project, maybe. Or maybe they struggle a bit to imagine how it will look finished, and then you really go for it. But most of the time, it's not necessary. So you won't make those pretty concepts because there's just no need for that. They have to present the idea sooner than that. I don't know. I think I kind of like diverted from the question.
No,
No, but
that's
it's
actually
great,
a
yeah.
very good thing. Like people have some sort of like it's still prevalent, and to some degree, I'm like, yes, keyframes and beautiful stuff totally makes sense because there's also design in them, and you can spend some more time. But like there are projects that like you barely do them. Well, most of them actually, right? And that's something that
Yeah.
people don't still seem to understand. That you're there to help the production, that you're sort of the bridge, like between the idea and like, hey, this is how it should look like. But like they have a level design and you
Yeah.
have to polish it up a bit, and it's just a shitty sketch,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think what doesn't help is that a lot of work like that is never proved to be shown. So
Yes.
in production, you produce a lot of shitty things that you will never be, even if you wanted to, no one will be like, oh yeah, you can show that on our station.
Yeah.
You won't get that approved because everything has to go through legal. And they, of course, want the project to be amazing and look amazing, and they want kind of the concepts to be like. I know of some practices when studios give artists time after the project is completed to polish some of the production concepts to make them look better. I know it's a thing. So don't necessarily believe everything you see in ArtStation, because it's not necessarily what was actually used in production. A lot of the times, all those concepts are polished to be shown. I can say that on Avatar, we did have to make those concepts that pretty. Like what you see on ArtStation posted by the team that I worked with is actually the stuff we did on the project. But that was, I think, specific to our project because we worked with the guys at Lightstorm, and this is what they're used to seeing, because they see the film stuff, which often has different purpose. For film, you need to visualize the keyframes, more the keyframe work, the keyframe design work, so they can kind of extrapolate how the shot will look like in a film, which is not really the case in the game so much. We did a lot of that, but that was project specific, and I don't think it's always like that. Really often you just have to make kind of half-baked things that will only serve one purpose, for instance. Like maybe the composition is not so great and stuff, but it shows the lighting artist how the lighting conditions should be like in this shot, or the composition or something like this. So I think, yeah, you will produce a lot of not so great looking stuff, but it's not really about making pretty pictures. It's about solving the problem. As a concept artist, you're a problem solver, you're not an illustrator, and I think that's a common misconception. And a lot of people think that it's more about pretty images than it is about actually. You're there to solve a problem. You're a problem solver. You're not really. Sure, you do it via artistic means, but you're not there for your artistic expression most of the time. I mean, if it's stylized projects, sure, maybe like style and stuff. But if it's a realistic project, like majority of AAA whatever games, it will be about solving the issue the team has at hand. It won't be about you making elaborate piece that will hang on the wall.
Yes, and I really like what you've said too. It's like it's very dependent on the project. It's like just because you've worked with Lightstorm and they're sort of accustomed to seeing the beautiful stuff. I'm quite sure they do shitty stuff too, by the way. Because in the movie stuff, you still do.
Sure.
The freaking,
Yeah, you still do. Yeah, you still do. Like I've seen some of that stuff, but like generally, I feel
the
like
ratio, right, is way
because
different.
I think it's a bit different for film because in games you have multiple teams that they build the Lego blocks of the game, like the levels and stuff like that. So there's a lot of intermediary steps. And in a film, it's the pure one-shot frame that is the end product. The big difference between games and films, which we also had a bit of discussion about working Avatar, is that in film you can cheat a lot. You can change things for the frame. The frame has to look only good in the camera bounce. Everything outside of the camera, what camera sees, can be, oh my God, it can be horrible, right? For the game, it has to look good from 360 degrees. Like you will be able to walk around it, you'll be able to interact with it. So you can't get, this one money shot of like, okay, this looks amazing from this angle, and then from the backside it's horrible because the players will walk around and see the backside, and you're like, what the hell is that?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have that. You can't get away with some stuff because you will get caught by the players. So I think that's the big difference between films and games, because stuff we do is interactable. You can't control what the player will see. In film, you 100% control what the players see, what the audience sees. So you tailor it for that very one shot. I think that's why it's so important to get it like super tight visually, because it will be replicated to look like that on screen.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, Mateusz, I have a very important question. Because of your story, come on, getting hired for one of the biggest studios, not even finished school yet. So, for all our students out there, let's imagine you are in your last year of the school. Yeah. How would you approach building your portfolio these days?
These days?
Yes.
I don't know if I'll get hired these days. No, I'm kidding.
That's so hard.
Come on, guys, let's stay optimistic.
Yeah, in your mind.
No. Oh, I wasn't even talking about all this. No, it was more about, I think industry changed. When I was building my portfolio, 3D was there, but it wasn't used so much. These days, I pretty much exclusively work in Blender. I barely touch Photoshop. Is the truth. It's easier to work in 3D. We started doing that on Avatar a lot, also because it was hard surface, so you don't have to mess around with perspective, redrawing the views and all this kind of stuff. You just have the 360 view of the thing you're designing. But I think these days, I can only speak for the team and the people I work with, and I know my team on Avatar, we worked 100% in Blender. We switched at some point. Later towards the project, we were putting stuff together directly in Snowdrop because we had majority of the assets already built for the game. But I think the workflow has switched so much towards 3D, which is a trap as well. I'll explain that in a second. But I will get back to your question, don't worry. So I think these days 3D is really important in a sense that it just gives you the speed if you can be fast enough. Because it's a trap of spending too much time building stuff in 3D when you could have sketched that in Photoshop in 15, 20 minutes. So you have to be mindful of that. You can't get caught into building elaborate environments if there are other ways. It's kind of like picking the right tool for the challenge. If you can do it fast in Photoshop, there's no point building the whole thing in Blender, right? But I would probably try to make like a coherent project. I think that's what kind of helped my portfolio. My portfolio was geared toward film production, so I think it was kind of a strike of luck that I showed it to the game company that was actually making a film IP game. I think that was me just at the right time in the right place. But I would definitely show that you can problem solve, because if I was involved in hiring someone, only seeing that they can make pretty pictures is telling me not much. We need the people to be able to solve specific issues and specific challenges, right? I need to see that you can design, for instance. It depends on the project. Some projects require more design, some projects require less design. But back when I was building portfolio, there was this, photo bashing was the hottest thing ever. And now some people are like, oh, you will find this perfect image and you will just change 2 or 3 things and it's done. That's a trap. You can't do that. Like, when you're building a portfolio, you can be like, okay, I like this picture, this will be my design, right? But in the game, you won't get that luxury most of the time. You have to design to specifics. So you have to show that you can actually design what is required and you are not overly reliant on kind of pre-made pictures and assets existing out there. Because I know I see a lot in our station, people buying the big, medium, small packs, the Kit Bash 3D, and they're putting environments and shots from that. This is not the way. Because in the game, on the production, you won't have all those building blocks because you're the person that's supposed to figure out how they look like. What people seem to be building quite often is something you would maybe do towards the very end, or when you get level design and level art already done, when you have figured out the art guide and art direction and what the design looks like. But you have to be mindful that there's a lot of steps that predate those kits. Even when you look at the big, medium, small stuff, they had to design it first, and you're the person that have to first design it before it's in the game. So you have to remember that if you just put together pretty pictures based on assets that you buy online from the packs, I would be very careful about hiring someone like that if they can't show that they can build stuff like that themselves. Because you're not showing any problem. Okay, you're showing some problem-solving skills, right? You're showing you can build composition, you're showing you can build a light, but I need to know, or you need to show that if you get presented with a level built out of a bunch of cubes and you know what the art direction is like and you have the brief, that you can actually build designs that will replace those cubes that are fit within the project, fit within the IP, and that they serve the purpose. And assembling shots with pre-made packs is not showing that.
So would you actually show, like, if, for example, in this portfolio, like, so something like a level blockout and then actual design on top? Or because I'm thinking about my students, right? Like, I'm always advocating for the design, like first, even showing like all the sketches and everything, because as a junior, you have to prove it. You have to prove it that you can design, right?
Yeah, especially the AI stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to show. Possibly. I'll probably think of like a location, like enclosed location. It doesn't have to, like, you're not really expected to do level art or level design, right? Level design is coming from the level designers, and they define what the gameplay is going to be like. And often there is place for discussion and room for changes, because you need to accommodate the visual aspects of the game, right? To give an example, if you playing Last of Us on Uncharted, any of the action adventures, there are some specific points in those games where it's tailored to show the vista shot, for instance. And that's when you should when you probably have some freedom to move some stuff around, like change things to make sure that there's the optimal, the wow shot, like the giraffe shot in Last of Us that is really iconic. But often you just present it with what's there and you have to, within those bounds, make something good. So I would probably, if it's for the game, if it's for the film, it will be probably different. Definitely different. If it's for the game, I would probably think of a location, like a coherent location, show it from a few different places, like shots, and show some prop work as well. Maybe some character work. I don't do characters. I don't really have to do characters. For us, the character work is really split. It's a completely different concept team that works in that. But I would also show you can design some props that can be placed within that level. Maybe show something that, this is an example how the level can be dressed up. This is how the, vista shot of this area would look like, or the main cinematic shot, whatever, to kind of explore that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know. I never thought about that, like I'm so past building portfolio because I have
Yeah,
not changed the job in 8 years. I didn't really think about that.
It's always hard. It always seems to be
Yeah,
like a stroke of luck. Sometimes you might just do
yeah,
keyframes, you will get hired. Sometimes you'll have a person that just do 3/4 views. And it's like, I saw somebody talking on LinkedIn. It's like, you have to do 3/4 views or something. I'm like, I'm
that's a lie.
8 years in and I never did them.
yeah,
No,
So,
yeah.
I mean, maybe if you work for like a Japanese company because you
yeah,
really
right. It's
love
very
their
specific.
this kind of stuff. Like I don't want to talk about I don't want to talk in absolutes because I don't know
Yes.
everything and I don't know
Yeah.
what different studios expect. But for projects I'm working on, I never did a three-quarter.
Yeah, me
I
neither.
never did orthographic view. I think it's just kind of like old school concept art stuff.
Like 10 years
Yeah.
ago, stuff like
Also,
that. Yeah.
yeah, also because if you think about it, I often work most of the time working 3D, and I don't do those views because I do the
Yeah.
shot, and then I just hand over the 3D model to the artist that is going to be building later. I just hand over the Blender file. Like it literally is like that. When I'm working on a concept for an environment location that we have, I just hand over the 3D file, and they extract the assets I did, and they make blockouts based on that, and then within their own limits and adjustments they need to make, they build on that. So I absolutely don't have to do this kind of stuff because it's just not necessary when I can hand over the source file. I think I want to say it's a waste of time, but I think it's kind of a skill of days past where it was necessary because someone had to build things based on your concepts, and the three-quarter views were the safest way of presenting different views for that,
Would
for
explain a
orthographics.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah, but nowadays you just have to be mindful that a 3D team won't be able to build a whole location of one keyframe shot. I think this is like we do sometimes key arts for environments for certain biome. We did those for Avatar, for instance. But then there was quite a lot of callouts, specific plans, specific assets that we had to draw and design on top of that because the team just doesn't know. It's difficult to extrapolate how the entire location, everything in it will look like based only on that one shot.
Mhm.
So I think as long as you provide different props and stuff like that, I think it shows that you can design and solve the issues that might be there. Maybe for some gameplay stuff like gameplay props. I mean, it's kind of difficult to come up with it because it usually comes from the designer. So for instance, like interactable props, it has to do this kind of stuff. It has to have an interactable screen that is color coded because there's a color code of, I don't know, for Avatar, we had teal for Avatar, I think, where teal was indicating gameplay props. I think often in games, like, red bars, like explosive stuff is always red. It's telegraphing the player that stuff that explodes is red. So all those kind of stuff, all those things come into play, and you have to think about that. But yeah, maybe like try to think of gameplay prop, how it would interact, maybe change the state or something like this. It's really for the game. But yeah, I probably wouldn't bother with like recorders or graphics, stuff like
So
that.
having said that, right, having
Yeah,
said that, let's keep
yeah,
it in the past. You sort of started when the photo bashing was booming. I was sort of in the same boat. Then
yeah,
the 3D was kind of used, but not so much, and now it's sort of more of a primary tool, I guess.
yeah.
Let's play a bit of what's going to happen in the future then. What do you think? And I'm not saying AI, let's keep it away from the books. Like, what do you think will be the next sort of stage? And we can go wild. Like we have, photo bashing, 3D. What do you think is going to be next? What do you think the next step will be of sort of showcasing concepts? Because I'm just asking because I sort of see
Yeah.
it in a way, but I'm just trying to, gauge what do you think would be
We did
the
we
best.
did use some VR sculpting,
Mm.
and I would have wanted VR to be a thing, Right now, I think the hardware is just not there, especially when it's hot, you don't have air conditioning. Like I do have VR headset for Gravity Sketch and in Medium. I find personally it's amazing tool for vehicles. I did quite a few vehicles, just generally like no, I would say vehicles mostly at this stage because you can gauge the perspective, not the perspective, the scale of things. You can walk around it, and I think now most of this kind of software allows other people to join as reviewers and look at your 3D stuff, like your VR stuff as well, like walk around it, see the model. I wish it was a bit more comfortable to use it because I think it's an amazing tool. Also working in 3D in actual 3D space. I wish we could, do stuff directly in VR, maybe with our controllers with like hands. I know there are some devices that kind of do the hand gestures and stuff like that, but I kind of wish I can like stand with like maybe AR or something, not even VR, and like I have the model I'm working on in the middle of the room, and I walk around and just use my fingers. It's really really hands-on. That would be quite something for concept design thing. Um, because it's just completely different work. It's way more intuitive because in the end, when you're working in 3D, you're working on the 3D objects in 2D space. No, you work on 3D objects in 3D space on 2D screens, so you kind of
Right.
convert the 3D into 2D. Even though you think in 3D, you look at it in 2D, but it's also in 3D. So it's kind of like this weird transition step. Like if anyone ever tried to work with curves in 3D, they know what I mean. It's like moving in just two axes at a time. In VR, it's just like one stroke, and you have the curve that you wanted. So I think I wish that the hardware was better in terms of how comfortable it is. But I don't think there's a market for it. I think it's mostly toy for gaming. I know it's used in automotive industry because clay models are really expensive to build, so they use a lot of Gravity Sketch. Or maybe not a lot. I know they use some of the Gravity Sketch is kind of tailored towards automotive industry and product design because you can have the same function just in 3D, which is cheaper to prototype than building a clay model from the get-go. But yeah, I wish it kind of came in a bit for us. So it's my wish, but I don't think it will really be much of a thing in coming years.
I totally agree with how uncomfortable sometimes it feels like. I was so hyped for it, and then I did some stuff with it for like 3-4 months, and then it collects the dust somewhere in the corner of the house. But I totally agree.
Yeah, it's hot in the headset. It's not even that heavy at this point, but I know some people have headaches, and we have 2 cats. So if I have the cable hanging from there and it's like moving on the floor, I will not have a headset within like half an hour because it will just tear it apart. So yeah, it's not really ready to be used on a daily basis. I know there are people that do. And I think with the new Rift that is wireless, I think people do, which kind of works. But yeah, I think there's still a way to go for that technology to be really usable on a daily basis. It's also kind of limitation when you're in the office, because there's like a desk next to your desk, and there's someone probably sitting behind you, so you can't exactly like wave your arms around
You
without
could,
being
but
mindful of what's going on around you. So that's also tricky. But yeah, you don't want to talk about AI, so we're not going to talk about AI.
yeah, let's not go there yet. We will do like a special episode on AI one day. I think we have time for one last question. Like we talk a lot about your studio work and also that you want to work in film. So do you have like any goals for the future? Like what do you want to achieve in your career? Do you have any dreams?
Yes.
Mateusz. Yes.
So, yes, I do. I have started working on a short film in Unreal Engine.
Oh.
I started, so I was talking about making one for a while. I think since Unreal Engine 5 came out and kind of the virtual production thing became something that you can actually do at home with limited resources, and the whole LED stage, like all this technology kind of came in with full blast into actual final pixel grade work in VFX and film. Mandalorian, all those kind of films that are filmed this way, and they're using, I think it's heavily modified, but it's like rendering engine of Unreal 5. So yeah, I want to make some short films. Short because, longer format requires more effort, more time and stuff like that. I started at the beginning of this year. I did some tests already, like I have a short test. I'm working under one. I have scripts, I have mock-up done. We'll see where it goes. I hope I will release it eventually. But yeah, I want to start doing that. Also, it's kind of something I really wanted to do for a long time. But also in a way it feeds into my skill set, like Unreal Engine is a tool that is increasingly used in the industry. You see studios switching from their proprietary engines to Unreal, like for instance, CD Projekt Red, they dumped the Red engine in favor of Unreal Engine, and there's a bunch of studios using it for real regular production work. So I think it's also a good thing to at least know your way around. It kind of makes game engines less alien to you as well. It's not something you've never came across before. If you have to work in some other one, because in principle they're all like the basic navigation and the core idea behind them is exactly the same for Unity, Godot, all the game engines. But yeah, my kind of goal is to get short film down and yeah, we'll see.
I love how artists are branching out. You're long enough in the industry, and then you see, and like, what's the next thing? And you didn't even know what the guy would be doing. You would think that.
And then
Yeah.
bam,
I
a
think-
short
like,
film.
hey. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's like, I mean, for me, it's natural progression. It depends how you look at your art. Like, I always think, whenever I have like a keyframe or even environment or some sort of story moments in the game, for me in my head, it's kind of a whole story, like it plays out almost like a film. So for me, kind of, I did a lot of personal projects when I was trying to encapsulate those ideas in concepts, but it ended up being this like 5, 6 keyframe images projects that still didn't get across what I wanted. So I was like, you know what? I'm trying to encapsulate something that should be a film in a tool or a format of a 2D images, which is not really working. So I may as well just start to try to make a film out of it. Like it's a myriad of new challenges, animation, mostly animation, honestly. Yeah, it's the hardest part for it. But the VizDev of material shaders, all this kind of stuff. But working in Blender and using so much 3D, it's not really so far-fetched to go from that to making things move. Like even in Blender, every built environment, you're just a few steps ahead. You're just a few steps away from making it move and having some sort of animated experience. So I think it's kind of natural next step for me. And I know for many others, like I've seen quite a few people doing this kind of stuff these days. When they start making shorts in Blender and stuff like that. I think with the tools being more accessible and the computing power being more accessible, it used to require a render farm. Now you can just do it on your home PC. So there's also the technological and hardware progress that enables doing this kind of stuff. Like in the past, you would need a render farm. You just couldn't.
Yeah, and you
Now
can
you
just
can
render in the winter and,
yeah,
instead of heating.
preheating. Yeah. Yeah, not when it's heat waves outside because your PC will cook. Yeah, but yeah, I think it's just. I think I think it's exciting, and I think it's also in the current industrial situation, it's maybe good to branch out into other things. friends as well. So
Mm,
do many things if worst comes
Absolutely.
to worst.
Yes.
I agree. Right.
Okay.
Thank
And
you
with
so
that note,
much. Yes.
yeah.
Thank you very much, guys. It
for
was a
your time.
pleasure. Yeah, had a lot of fun. Thank you,
Really
and have a
appreciate
good
it.
day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.